my cell phone, but you can see me.
Right.
Over
Well,
there,
what
those
we're looking
vineyards
at here
over
is vineyards in Eretz HaKodesh with Amichai Lourie. I'm Yehoshua Werth. We got Tzvi Lauren on the controls.
Just 1 second. Tzvi Lauren is loading the live. And okay, we're live.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So for those of you guys who are watching live on Facebook, we have a very special presentation today. We have two very special people. The first person is my partner and friend, a dear friend, Yehoshua Werth. When he's not the manager of a wine store called Grapevine in Muncie, or as they call it, Wesley Hills, the hamlet of Wesley Hills. He is educating and entertaining and enlivening people with his knowledge of Torah, wine, and just random things that I can't even think of, and puns. And from Eretz Israel, from the land of Israel, from his vineyards, we have Amichai Lourie, the winemaker at Shiloh Winery. Shiloh is the place, for those of you guys don't know, was the capital of Israel for 369 years, before Jerusalem was even a thing. And Amichai actually lives in a town close to Shiloh called Maleh Levona, which is actually translates as a scent of frankincense, which is one of the ketoret, one of the incense that we use in the temple. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get to use it very soon once again. And we'll get to pour wine, and it'll be fantastic. And hopefully, it looks like it might happen very, very soon. So I'm just going to let you guys just go and do what you do. And we see here, I think Amichai is currently in his Petit Verdot vineyard. I guess that's what we're looking at. So
we're looking at, this is a Petit Verdot vineyard. This is a Petit Verdot cluster. Very small, very tiny, very loose. Over there is our Petit Syrah vineyard. And my son that's helping me out today just made me my first cup of coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And we've been working since 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And not because he didn't want to make me a cup of coffee earlier. We just didn't have time to drink coffee before that.
Wow.
How you doing, Yehoshua? And by the way, Yehoshua is not just your friend, he's my friend too.
Yes.
If he likes it or not, tough luck, that's it.
Yes. He looks like he's getting some sort of paraphernalia to make the tasting, kind of more to add something to it. So I'm just wondering where he ran off to.
Yeah,
But tell us about. Tell us about
We'll retune and when we find Yehoshua. No.
Tell us about so now you're in the harvest, basically. You're in the thick of the harvest.
So what we did last night, or now it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we left towards our vineyards, not these, different vineyards. At 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 a.m. we started the harvest of our Sauvignon Blanc, one of our vineyards of Sauvignon Blanc. Around 6:30 we finished the harvest. Grapes, we sent them to the winery. They're already destemmed, pressed, and the juices in the tank settling, all the sediment is settling overnight. And tomorrow we'll start fermentation of the Sauvignon Blanc. And we continued our day. And we went to see how things are going in our other vineyards all around to see when we have to harvest. And when you called, we were actually by coincidence in one of our Petit Verdot vineyards. You can see the Petit Verdot grape is a very, very small berry, very loose clusters, and gives a very intense wine with a lot of color and a lot of tannins and a lot of fruit to it. And we love to use our Petit Verdot in a lot of different wines. Our Petit Verdot goes into the flagship wine of the flagship wine of the winery. I've been up since 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm sure you'll forgive me.
Oh, good.
Petit Verdot goes into the Mosaic, the flagship wine of the winery. It goes into the Legend Fiddler, that's already legendary wine, right? The Legend series. And finally, we started making a single varietal Petit Verdot wine in the Secret Reserve series, and that's what I think Yehoshua has for us to taste. I'm not going to be tasting it in the middle of the winery. Yehoshua.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to sit down. Is that okay with you?
That's
You can do whatever
perfect.
you want. You can sit down. You can lay down.
Very good. So
What I'm
sitting
doing right
down.
now, Amichai and Svi,
Yeah.
and everyone listening, is the other day I reviewed one of Amichai's wines, and he asked me about the glass, because the glass is so important to portraying the aroma, the taste, the style, and what it presents to us in our nose or nasal passages to give over what Amichai is working on in the fields. So what I did today is, instead of, just kind of doing my own thing, picking a glass that I specifically want to taste today, I brought out a small goblet, a larger goblet, a kind of what they call like a Cabernet or a Burgundy goblet, a neat glass, which is designed to eliminate the alcohols, and a Kiddush cup. Because all of these will at least reach someone that is tasting wine either with us or at another time with this particular bottle. And then all the work that Amichai is doing out in the fields can be experienced in its fullest fashion. So Tzvi and I love to discuss, like, how does all the expression of what we're smelling and tasting and drinking, especially when we're talking about, someone portraying a Mishkan on a bottle inside of grape fields, how does all this come out in our glass? How does ancient history arrive today in our Kiddush cup? Or heck, don't even have to be Jewish at all, just in your glass when you're smelling and tasting and experiencing everything. So when we're talking about Shiloh, the incense, the Mizbeach, the wines, all these were active, so we have aroma. And Amichai is in the Petit Verdot vineyard, and I have, of course, the slip of the week, the Petit Syrah wine with me that I opened up a while ago, let it air out.
Oh, by the way, the Petit Syrah is right over there. The next vineyard over. So if you want, I'll go to the Petit Syrah and I'll show you the difference. Instead of talking about the Petit Verdot vineyard,
Awesome.
if we're talking about the Petit Syrah vineyard, then I can show you what a Petit Syrah cluster looks like, because it's completely different.
Fantastic.
So if a Petit Verdot is a small, tiny cluster, very loose grapes, I'll show you now a Petit Syrah vineyard, and it's very close.
I love this.
Oh, hi, Judy. Judy's here from Americans for a Safe Israel, or from Judy Kaddish.
Welcome. Glad you're here.
Welcome, welcome.
This is my first Zoom review and my first multinational crossbreeding. So this is very exciting for all of us.
Yeah, sure. Look, this is a Petit Syrah cluster. So it's almost like corn. It's very tight. The berries are like squeezing one another. And it tastes completely different. Like this, a Petit Syrah, even now when it's still a couple of weeks away from harvest, it's already has a very strong tannins to it. Almost that one berry and like grips your mouth, your lips together. And the tannins here are completely different than the Petit Verdot. Here they're much more powerful, more intense. If it's made properly, you get a big wine with amazing mid palate to it, and that's why I like a Petit Syrah too. And if you think of it, the Legend Fiddler is a blend of Petit Syrah and Petit Verdot, and also a little bit of Shiraz to try and smooth it out a little bit. So I'm gonna sit. You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't get lost here.
Okay, So the thing that's the misnomer or the misconception or the misunderstanding that I've always heard is people call Petite Syrah, they think it's related to the Syrah or Shiraz genus of grapes. And I'm told that the only reason that people refer to it that way because it looks like a small version, but to me and everybody I talk to, the taste and style are totally different.
Completely. There's no way even to compare it. Like a good Syrah or Shiraz is very spicy, fruity, but a very smooth and elegant wine when it's made properly. A Petite Syrah has very powerful tannins to it, and it's the acidity is more dominant, and it's a completely different. Everything is different. The aromas are different. The texture and the mouthfeel is different. Even I think the aging potential. I think a Petite Syrah has made properly, which is very difficult, by the way. I think a Petite Syrah to make a good single varietal Petite Syrah is very hard to make because usually if it's not done right, there's like zero mid palate and you have this hollow wine. And if you grow the grapes properly and you make the wine in a good way, then you can get this amazing wine. And a Shiraz Syrah is a very much smoother wine.
So it sounds like what you're talking about, the hallway situation. It's like you see this beautiful building, like you see you have these gorgeous clusters. You do the crush, the aroma coming off it is incredible. But then once you get into it on your mouth, if you don't produce it correctly, it's just not there the way it's showing itself up front.
Guys,
Right.
I just want to let you interject for a second. My father just showed up. My father is, I just want to tell you, first of all, he called himself, because I called you guys Amichai the Kohen and Yehoshua the Levite. So he calls himself Yitzhak Lifshitz the Israel. As far as we know, we're Israel. The second thing I want to say that my father is obsessed with the Shiloh privilege. It is his favorite wine, I think, of all time. He loves it, and he's probably like glowing right now just being on the Zoom and watching what he's watching. So I just wanted to say that. All right.
Awesome. Welcome.
Shiloh privilege
Mr.
is our
Lord the
entry
Israel.
wine, and it's probably the most difficult wine. The wine that we put in more effort than any other wine is the Shiloh privilege. Although it's our entry wine and it's the cheapest wine in our portfolio, still it's the hardest to make. Because the idea is to make a wine that everybody will really appreciate it and will be easy to drink, and you don't have to put your nose in the glass to smell the aromas. The aromas come out to you. And what my goal is that when somebody drinks the Shiloh privilege, he says, oh my God, if this is the wine that cost me, I don't know, 20 something dollars, wow, what is going to be a $35 or $50 bottle of wine? And we find that a lot of people drink the privilege just to test us out. And because it's done like it is, then people always want to try the other wines. And very challenging to make a wine like that. Every year, I think
I wouldn't even use the word. I wouldn't even use the word entry for it. I mean, I guess mid-level, but entry is like not even. You know?
Okay. I get where you're going with that.
It implies something like low. I mean, it's not a low-level wine at all. You know, it's like your. In your case, it's, I guess.
For us, it's our entry level. Yeah. For us.
Okay. Let's get some character of every effort you put in there. I'm going to call it from grape to glass, from Kohen bracha to Levite elevation with song, to Yisrael answering amen and bringing the offerings together. We'll put it together now. I have 5 glasses on the table. Again, this is what I call my aroma glass. This is an entry-level glass. This is what I call a mid-level glass. And this is definitely a larger goblet. You know, it's going to have the most amount of aroma that can be contained when you give it a swirl, per se. and they all have about the same amount of liquid too. And of course, there's the Kiddush cup. And I'm going to drink first from this just because I think it'd be ridiculous and not giving kavod or its jurisprudence or its proper presentation if I wasn't tasting from the Kiddush cup first, even though it's sacrilege probably in the wine professional world. But I'm not worried about that word. I'm worried about more how we share what we do and from our history to now. So this glass is meant to eliminate alcohol. This wine is 15.5% alcohol. Many people are afraid to go that high. Amichai is not afraid to go that high because the grape is expressing itself to that level in the fermentation. Right. Okay.
I think when a wine is balanced properly, then it doesn't matter if it's 12% alcohol or 16% alcohol.
Got it.
Balance is everything. And by the way, the different glasses, which I can't see because I can't see you. I can't even see myself. But it's when you drink wine in different glasses, it doesn't just affect the aromas. Believe it or not, it also affects the flavors because the way it pours into your mouth, it pours differently from a different kind of glass. And
Yep.
you might taste the same wine will taste different with two different glasses, which is
I am expecting it to taste 5 different ways right now.
right.
And what I'm looking for is what's the central theme more so than how each one expresses themselves individually. I would imagine when you're in the blending room, the goal is to find the central theme and have that be your wine versus your most extreme, how should I say, expressions at the grape's harvest time.
So I think blending is an art altogether. We just posted a video clip, a cool video clip about the Legend Fiddler, which is a blend of Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot, and Shiraz. And there's also like on the top part of our Facebook page, you can see somebody took a video clip of me blending one day one of the wines in the winery. Blending is the biggest challenge. That's where all the magic really happens, I think, when you're making wine. And
Okay.
I can say that when you say that when I'm blending and trying, I can have something in mind, but it won't always work. And you also have a lot to guess because you're blending through the whole long process. So I have to, okay, this is what it is now, but what is it going to be after another 6 months in the barrel or another year in the barrel or another year and a half in the bottle? You need a lot of siyata dishmaya.
Yep.
Not just talent, yeah.
All right. So, l'chaim bracha. I'm going to wish everybody the most beautiful, elegant, awesome year. The king is in the field. We'll give everybody a little bit of a to get everybody woken up correctly here today.
Wake up call.
You know, we got to bring this the right way. And wish you a bracha. In fact, you know what? Amichai, you give us a bracha first. I'll follow.
I can't, I don't have wine with me. It can't be a bracha levatala. You'll make a bracha. I'll say amen.
Okay. Here is to the fruit of the vine arriving at the Mizbeach of the third Beis Hamikdash. Here is to all of us unifying together to make that work and not wait for it to happen. Here is for us to have our families healthy, the end of this virus, COVID, turning into kavod, in other words, praise of Hashem. And I love you. L'chaim bracha. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
All right. Now, I've been smelling through these glasses all together. The way I would like to present this particular small goblet is like when I'm looking out at Amichai's fields, it's almost like you're kind of almost rock climbing. It's a little rugged. You're excited about where you're headed to. It has a little bit of tension to it. It has, it's very dark floral. And then when you take a step into this second size goblet, it's like you're looking up at the peak of the hill where the flowers are all growing, these dark flowers are growing. And again, there's still this ruggedness, but it's starting to smooth itself out. I'm just talking about the aroma right now. When I arrived at the big goblet, it still has a little bit of tension. Now, this has only been open about 30 minutes. I would imagine Amichai would recommend this probably an hour at this age, correctly?
Or if you're planning to drink it for Shabbat, Friday night, then I recommend to open up your Shabbat wines Thursday night. Thursday night, all the wine that you need ready for Shabbat, you open up. You drink like a little bit, just to drop it from the shoulders of the bottle. Drink a little bit out of all the bottles that you're planning to drink for Shabbat. Put the cork back in, leave it open until Shabbat. I promise you that Friday night, Shabbos, you'll enjoy it much more that way. And even if you by mistake, you opened up too much wine and you have leftovers for Melave Malka or even for Sunday or Monday, I promise you the wine will just get better. Test me, you'll see it. It's worth that. It's worth the effort. It's also right, you say, Yom Rishon b'Shabbat, Yom Sheni b'Shabbat, right? There's a machloket from when do you plan for Shabbos, right? But when you plan for Shabbat, it also has a special, it makes the wine special because you're planning for Shabbat. It shows you're getting ready for Shabbat. So there's so many ways to get ready for Shabbat. Some we do like right before Shabbat, right? You bench licht, you put on the plata, you get your Shabbos clock on, you do everything you need. Some of the things you do the day before, you did shopping, you cooked some the day before, some this. And also preparing your wine for Shabbat. There's also some way to get ready properly for Shabbat.
So Amichai, through all of the glasses, there's a couple central themes. They're all a little bit meaty, like a little bit flesh in orientation, of like the juicy of a lightly cooked flesh. And I know you're very much into cooking flesh or meat. And then
eating flesh, eating. I can cook, but eating is
then
more
there's also, again, this dark, floral, almost orchid, like nectar component that I very much enjoy through all of them. That's the central theme that's in all of those two components. And then when I get to this glass here, is kind of the middle glass that has the most closure at the top for its size. I find the most balance and presentation of all of them when it comes to all the aromas and the character without the alcohol. This glass presents no alcohol whatsoever. And again, it's like you reach an eclipse on the top of a mountain. You're a little bit tense. You've been kind of powering through to get up there. You reach an ocean, it's like lighter, it's more airy and breeze. This is more like in the, climbing the mountain. There's a little bit of wood in there. There's a little bit of the stones around you, some dirt. And I mean this in the most respectful, loving fashion. I love that in a wine. I want these characters in wine. I don't want flat sweet.
Do you get also like almost like a tar aroma to it, like
Yeah.
You understand where I'm going with it? Right.
Yes.
The Petit Syrah, we have that almost from the beginning of fermentation till even after a long time in the bottle. It has that extra layer in the wine, and also it's also a very spicy wine. If you spicier than you would expect in a Petit Syrah.
What you just said brought me, I grew up in Fresno, California, and there the streets would get really hot. Like the concrete would be like 125 degrees. And when you're sitting outside in the air, there's this little waft of that, hot cooking stone in the air. So I hear what you're talking about. It's almost like a hot cooking stone.
Yeah.
And,
What
and
I
let's
like
get
in wines like this, when you're not in when you drinking a wine in this level, it can't be only one dimension. It has to have layers. It has to be interesting. It has to be that when you're drinking, take your
What,
first sip, you get this, and then in your second sip, you get something else. You get something else is revealed. It's almost like peeling an onion. You get this, and then you get something else, and you get something else. And this is like a ideal wine for a really good meal because uh, I always recommend to have 2 glasses or 3 glasses in front of you and have a couple of different kinds of wines while you're eating your meal. On your plate, you don't have one thing. On your plate, you have a lot of different flavors and things going on. So you might as well have a couple of different wines at the same time. And don't worry that we already said that the wines will last and you don't have to finish it in one day. You can finish it in a couple of days and it makes it more interesting. But even the wine itself, it's so much more interesting. It's so much more enjoyable when you get something new when you taste the wine during the meal. That's when you started the meal, you got one thing, and
I
Amir,
think
your
we
audio
lost
cut out for a
your
second.
audio.
Oh, there you go.
I'm gonna carry this through. There's also one other component: old growth forest wood. And I grew up close to the sequoias and Yosemite, so the old growth forest wood for me is a very familiar, beautiful tone as well. I'm going to taste these wines now and give this over my opinion on the character of the taste. I'm going to start with this neat glass because it's going to give me the most, how should I say, easy aroma flush into my nasal passages when I take a sip. Chaim Bracha. Yeah. So Amichai was telling us big spice, more surprising actually. But in that spice, if you're going to refer to a pepper or a jalapeno or a ghost or whatever these, peppercorn, whatever these spicy elements are that our brains are familiar with, know that it does not have the oiliness of some of those seeds or peppers that when you touch to your hands and you touch your face, you can burn yourself. It doesn't have that oiliness on your palate. It is dry. It is woody. It's got fruit kind of in the middle back of that. The old growth forest is coming through and the nectars are kind of like out here. And it's really good because I would imagine a great winemaker as yourself. Please, thank you for your humbleness always.
working on it.
Yeah. You want the initial aroma to somehow arrive in the end of the sip of the wine. There's a lot of great wines I've had that smell one way and taste another way and are also really enjoyable. But for me, it's also great when you have a central fire kind of theme to the aroma and taste together. Okay, let's
Gentlemen, I forgot to mention that Amichai just won 3 gold medals, 2 silver, and 1 bronze for his wines. I think the gold medals went to the Legend Honey, Legend Fiddler, and there was one of the Secret
Legend
Reserve.
Honey, Merlot Secret Reserve, and Petit Verdot Secret Reserve.
That was the gold?
Legend Fiddler, yeah. Legend Fiddler.
Got a silver.
And something else got a silver, and I think this Petit Syrah got the bronze. The Petit Syrah I think got the bronze, the silver, and the Shiraz got a bronze, or the other way around.
Basically, you're like that swimmer who went to the Olympics, and your arms are full of medals.
Thank God there are a lot of medals, so I don't have to. We stopped putting the medals on the wall in the winery because there's no room, so they're now stacked up on the shelves instead.
Yeah, I saw you have a whole kind of wall, and it's kind of hidden. There's all those placards, but
there's no room anymore.
Let's create a virtual wall. Tzvi and I can help you with that. So people, if they want, they can just go online and scan through all the different medallions versus you having to hide these things somewhere so you don't have room for how nice it is to get all these awards. Okay, I'm going to set that as a long-term goal. The way the fruit presents itself when you're taking a sip of this wine, because the tannins really have that tension from the aroma too. They're really gripping here, the dryness across the palate. But there's this beautiful, there's these kids that skateboard on like a hoverboard. Some of them actually float, some don't, but they call them hoverboards. This has this cool fruit that just kind of hovers right above. It keeps you just moist enough to not be, sucked completely out with the acid and the tannin and the wood. It's pretty cool. It leaves you just moist enough to really enjoy those other elements which could sidetrack from the fruit. And again, this wine is not open.
What's very surprising to me is that through all this time that you've been drinking the wine, you didn't say to yourself, oh my God, if I just had a really good juicy steak here, the wine would be so much better. Or my steak would be so much better with that juicy wine.
Amichai, you're the Kohen here. You're the Kohen, he's the Levite. Everybody's got their things that they're drawn to.
So Amichai, what you just said, the second thing you said is what I would say, not the first one. I'm not looking for meat to go with my wine. I'm looking for which wine to go with my meat, because meat, you're not as in control of everything, but wine, you have a much bigger selection, at least in my particular life. How many cuts of meat are in Muncie, New York, if you're not communicating with the shochet as well as you should, or the butcher?
Listen, you should get it says, "Aseh lecha rav ukneh lecha chaver," right? But in the Mishnah, it's to say not "Aseh lecha rav ukneh lecha chaver." Make sure that chaver is a butcher. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
My father has a question
there, right?
Any ratings from the wine experts besides medals?
Sure, our wines are reviewed by the best in the world wine spectator, wine advocate, wine enthusiast, in other competitions. Most of our wines are awarded 90 to 95, and not by coincidence once every now and then, but literally every single year, our wines are getting these high ratings from the best wine critics in the world. We started doing these Zoom sessions with the groups of sommeliers from all over the United States, people that work in Michelin star restaurants, and they've been tasting our wines and been amazed and surprised, because they never knew that Israeli wines are so good. We've been tasting the Petit Verdot, actually, and we've been tasting the Barbera that we make again and again. And listen, the reviews from wine critics that give you scores to your wines, till wine professionals and wine enthusiasts that taste the wines and that are amazed. And
this amateur at the end of the camera, with it open this long, tasting this much, I'm about a 91, 92 for me. If I was going to give it a 100-point rating scale, the way it's drinking now, I think with more air, I'd probably maybe give it a little better. I love when a wine is this dry and has that much fruit to hover, but it's not a fruit bomb. It's not jammy at all for me. I'm also, my last little component idea here is, I pictured myself looking at like a red rock cliff with the greenery at the base of it, the big trees surrounding the area. There's this beautiful, I get this dark, stony component to it that I really like a lot. And it's extraordinarily smooth for a wine that has this much tannin and acid and tension and wood.
And that's because of the balance. That means you can have extraordinary things in a wine, but you won't like the wine. Why? Because it's not balanced. Something is off. And I think balance is everything in a wine. And we struggle and we work very hard to get that balance. And I must admit that a lot of times we don't really know where it's going. That means we can guess from experience and everything, and probably it's going to go here, probably it's going to go there. And thank God we had a lot of success over the years. And balance is something that's extremely important for me in a wine. I can tell you that this specific wine, the Petit Syrah, I've been wanting for years to make a single varietal Petit Syrah in the Secret Reserve series, which is our best-selling series by far, and the most interesting wines are in that series. And I can say that the last time we made a Petit Syrah Secret Reserve was only in 2007. And then for all these years, from 2007 till 2017, I never felt that I nailed it, so I didn't do it again. You understand? 10 years I've been working, and always at the last minute or sometimes just during the process, I said, no, it's not where I want it to be. And the grapes, the wine went to a different blend or to a different wine. Only again now in 2017 vintage, and again, thank God we had it 2018, again in 19, and hopefully 20 we'll have it again. The Petit Syrah was like worthy of its own wine. Must have been like about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. I attended in Teaneck a Tu B'Shvat Seudah that we did at somebody's house, and hosted a lot of people. This was before coronavirus. And he opened up on the Tu B'Shvat table. One of the wines that he opened up was the Petit Syrah 2007 that he had aging in his cellar. So we're talking about, now it's already 13 years old, but then it was, let's say, 11, 12-year-old wine. And tasting the wine, and it's around the table, and suddenly, you know, the room goes silent, you know. And I say, like, when people taste the wine and suddenly everything goes quiet, then you know somebody tasted something really good. And then we started talking about the wine. This is 2007, and it has still years to go. And I think that this Petit Syrah 2017, for people that like to age wine and see how wine changes and develops and gets more layers and more interesting, this is the ideal wine to age for a long time. You buy 20 or 30 bottles and you mark it down once every 6 months. You know, every Sukkot and every Pesach, you open up a bottle of wine, and you see you're not just enjoying the way the wine develops, but you're also you're like walking with the wine, and it's an amazing experience. Like almost like watching your children grow up, you know. Or maybe your grandchildren is a more better analogy, because your children you see all the time. Your grandchildren, you're not always fortunate to see them all the time. And then you see them, and then you see them again. Wow, it bounced like this, and then it's like this, and oh my God, look where they got to be. And when you have a special wine like this, it's an amazing experience to taste the wine over time. And
well, you're talking about children and grandchildren. I can imagine you probably had a grandchild born around the time you start aging these things in the barrels, and the kid's 18 months old once you pull it out.
Well, Be'ezrat Hashem, if all goes well, in the next couple of weeks, I'm expecting another 2 grandchildren. So Be'ezrat Hashem.
Okay. So you'll tell me how old the kids are when you pull the next batch out of the barrels, right? This wine was in the barrel for 18 months. And I do actually concur with you on its aging potential, because the tension and the tannin and the acid of the wine have such a beautiful structure. I mean, I haven't taken a sip of the wine in a while here, and I'm still going. I'm going to finish off my particular inside of the day. Today is the Torah portion. This Shabbos or Shabbat is Parsha Ki Tzitze, or Tzitze. and it says, when you go out to war against your enemies, ki tetze lemilchama al oivecha, and it goes on to what Hashem is going to give over in the captive. And when you go out into the fields, it's exactly the opposite for me. You're going out to find the weapon of peace, wine, where people can sit in shalom, and you give us brachas always from that as a Kohen.
Right? The prophecies are coming true. I'm now in Eretz Israel after 2,000 years that I don't have to, can't even begin to say what we had to endure and suffer in the past 2,000 years. And suddenly you're now back in Eretz Israel. The mountains all around us full of vines, sitting at the end of a very hot August day, and I'm underneath the vine. Ish tachat gafno v'tachat te'enato. It's like it's Yemot HaMashiach. You know, you have to be blind not to see that that this process of Mashiach is happening now. I mean, it doesn't matter how you look at it, but this is happening. You mentioned the privilege. On the privilege label, I don't know if you realized, it says, except for privilege and the way the label says, on top it says in small writing, Yechezkel Lamed Vav. Just says, that's just to make you a little bit curious and, you know, okay, why did you put that there? What does it say there? I encourage people, open up it can't hurt to open up the Tanakh, or today, you know, you can even Google it. And
Ezekiel 36 for those people.
And it's an amazing prophecy, that if there are so many prophecies that I literally feel they're coming true, and I feel it every single day, right? You can read the prophecy, wow, this is what is happening now. But that prophecy is amazing. It says, Ve'atem Harei Israel, Anpechem Titnu, Ufiriyechem Tis'u Le'ami Israel Ki Karvu Lavo. Right? The hills, the mountains of Eretz Israel will give its branches, its fruit, because the sons of Israel, Am Israel, Ki Karvu Lavo, are about to return. That means it's basically saying that the land prepares itself for us, for our returnal. That means
Amen.
For 2,000 years, people tried to grow things here to make this land flourish. Failed. Everybody failed. Nobody succeeded. And like it says, actually, I think it's next week's parasha, right? V'shamemu alea oivechem. That means when we're going to be in exile because we didn't behave, right? But our enemies will not be able to flourish in our land. And in the Gemara, it says, you know, we shouldn't try to predict when Mashiach is going to come. Because if you try to predict, you know, in this year and that year and this date, that date, you know, we might not be worthy. The date will come and go, and it'll cause a lot of sorrow. And our history is full of false messiahs. Is that right? False Mashiachim, right? And it caused a lot of trouble. But the Gemara says you shouldn't try to predict. But if you want to know a sign, then that it's happening, it's about to happen, something is going on, get ready. That's the pasuk of Yechezkel. That's what it says. When you see that after so long that nothing flourished and nothing happened here, suddenly the land is preparing itself for us to return, right? Trees, branches, fruit, it's all flourishing. Look at this amazing wine, the amazing wine that's happening here in Israel. It didn't happen 200 years ago. It didn't happen 1,000 years ago. It's happening now. There's a reason why it's happening now. The land says, okay, we paid the price for not behaving, and that's why we were in exile for so long. But now the land is welcoming us. I mean, any person that lives here in Eretz Yisrael sees the land is welcoming us. Everything is happening for a good reason, and I think it's a great it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be part of this. And what's amazing is that you're literally a part of prophecies coming true. That means when you are working in the vineyard, when you're sitting underneath your vine because you need a little bit of shade, right? Why am I sitting here? I'm sitting here because it's been a long day. I worked all night. I'm tired and I need a place to sit down and rest. Okay, what does it say? Ish tachat gafno v'tachat te'enato. That means when this process will happen, you will sit underneath your grapevine. It's like it's amazing times to be alive. I always say that, that I was speaking to. I actually went. I'll tell you a nice story. I was at.
Amichai,
Yeah.
I need to head to work to sell your wine.
That's good. That's most important because let's not forget it's a business, right? We're supposed to make a profit here.
So
we're talking about prophecy, prophets.
Right. Prophecy
I wanted to say one thing before I go. And what are you doing when you take your rest? You're sitting below the vines, you're playing with the soil. And we talk about the enemies will not be able to, or those who want to blasphemize or be against Hashem or God will not be able to see the proliferation or growth in a healthy manner of the land. We see a healthy proliferation and growth of the land now. The land you sit in, the land that your family, our family, the Kohanim, the Levim, the Yisraelim will bless Hashem in this land. It's happening now. We should all be able to do the work as you are. And really look at those people who doubt, who remorse, who hate or judge, and just look at them straight in their face and be like, Hashem's blessing us every single millisecond, second of every day.
All you have to do is open your eyes. And by the way, you're not supposed to be discouraged if things aren't smooth. It never said that it's going to be a smooth ride. Or the opposite. Chazal tell us it's not going to be a smooth ride, right? Like the Tanaim, our great sages, said that we're afraid of this time when it'll come because it's not going to be easy, right? Right? It's going to happen in stages. There are going to be ups and downs now, and we shouldn't be discouraged. When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Yep. And on that note,
difficult. It just shows you that that's the way it's supposed to be. So you're supposed to look at the negative things that are happening and see that it's actually positive. That's how it's supposed to be. We're being tested.
And on that note, Amichai, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to blow the shofar one more time. If you want to find me today, I'll be at the Grapevine in Wesley Hills, New York. If you want to find Amichai, he might be taking a nap because he's been up since, 2, 3 in the morning Israeli time. Tzvi, if you want to find him, look for Israel Wine Agency. We're here for you. We'll do our best to promote anything from Israel that's got to do with the land and growth and everything. And we appreciate you. Tzvi, I love you. Amichai, I love you.
Likewise, man. The king's in the field.
Taking the time.
Amichai's in the field with the king. Oh, what happened?
I'll tell you, you want to know something interesting? My son can blow the shofar constantly without stopping, right? There's the Tkiya Gdola. If you do the long one, nobody can do it longer than my son. You know why? He plays the saxophone, so he can fill his cheeks with enough air that while he's pushing air out to continue blowing the shofar, he can bring air in through his nose and just continue blowing without stopping. It's amazing to see it. I have
Amichai,
to
can I
make
tell
a
you
video
something?
clip of that one day.
I know you're not going to leave Israel. You're not crazy enough to leave Israel during Rosh Hashanah, but the rabbi where my parents live in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, Rabbi Levi Newbort, I think he's the world champion in what you're describing. And every year he gets, it's like we're amazed. He just gets longer and
You
longer.
get the chills, huh?
You think the guy is going to like pass out.
Yes,
I don't know what he does. But
if we get a ride to Wesley Coast,
Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
Be in touch.
My friend-
Don't be a stranger. Next time
And
you're here, come visit.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
walking out my door
And
now.
B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to try to do something maybe
Thank you.
just before Rosh Hashanah or maybe before Sukkot. We'll see how
Yeah,
things pan out.
sure, we can make that happen. Have
All
a
right.
nice day. Okay, bye.
Okay, everyone. Go get some rest.
Bye.
And thank you everybody for joining. Those of you guys on Facebook
Yeah.
Live and also here. And l'chaim,
כוס קפה
Shabbat
שלך מלא
shalom.
נמלים. פעם ראשונה שנראה נמלים על קפה. בלי סוכר בפנים.